FIFA does not own a single stadium, it does not pay a single player, and it does not even run a single league. And yet, in the 2019 to 2022 cycle, it generated $7.57 billion in revenue. And in the current 2023 to 2026 cycle, it's targeting $13 billion. It amuses me that most people think of FIFA as a football organization. It is not. It is one of the most sophisticated rights businesses on the planet, and its ROI model is nearly unmatched in global sports. In this video, I'm going to break down exactly how it works, the revenue channels, the cost structure, the tax advantages, and because intellectual property matters, the parts of this model that deserve scrutiny alongside admiration. FIFA's business model is genuinely brilliant and complicated. FIFA is officially a non-profit organization registered in Switzerland under the Swiss law. If you're under the impression that means it operates like a charity, you are wrong. Its business model is closer to a media company and rights holder than anything resembling a traditional non-profit. Here is how the structure actually works. FIFA owns the rights to the World Cup and its other flagship tournaments. That's the asset. Everything else flows from that. It pays no rent on stadiums. Host countries build them, often at enormous public expense. FIFA does not employ players or coaches. That's the job of national associations. FIFA operates on a 4-year cycle with revenue heavily concentrated in World Cup years. Think of it this way. FIFA sells access to the game, but does not actually play it. The players, the stadiums, the infrastructure, all provided by others. FIFA provides one thing, the right to call it the World Cup. And that's an amazing asset-light model. Low operational costs, very high margins on rights sales, and almost no capital tied up in the product itself. The marketing lesson is sitting right there on the surface, and we'll come back to it. But first, let's follow the money. FIFA's revenue comes from 4 main channels. Let's go through them in the order of size, and I want to be specific here because the numbers tell a story. Broadcast and media rights is the largest single source of revenue and the anchor for everything else. For the 2019 to 2022 cycle, FIFA generated close to $3.43 billion from television broadcasting rights. And for the current 2023 to 2026 cycle, that figure is budgeted at more than $4.26 billion. Do you know why this number keeps growing? Live sport is one of the last reliable moats against audience fragmentation in a streaming world. People watch live. They don't DVR it. They don't watch it 3 days later. That makes the advertising environment uniquely valuable. And the World Cup is the most valuable version of that moment on Earth. In the US alone, broadcast rights for 2026 increased 94% compared to 2022. That is not incremental growth. I see that as a market repricing what this tournament is worth in the world's most valuable advertising market. Next is marketing and sponsorship rights. For the 2019 to 2022 cycle, this generated $1.79 billion. And for the current 2023 to 2026 cycle, sponsorship is projected at approximately $2.69 billion. That's a 50% increase cycle on cycle. FIFA structures its sponsorship tiers deliberately. FIFA partners are at the top, the most exclusive, most expensive, and most globally integrated. Then we have World Cup sponsors, then regional supporters, and lastly, national supporters. That tiered architecture is smart commercial design. It creates scarcity at the top while opening access further down the pyramid. Brands at every level can say they are associated with the World Cup, but the value of that association varies dramatically by tier. For 2026, FIFA has nearly sold out its entire sponsorship inventory. Ampere analysis projects sponsorship revenues could reach as high as $2.4 billion from the tournament alone. That's a 37% increase on 2022. What are brands actually buying? Not just eyeballs, right? They are buying the emotional associations consumers make with the World Cup, shared experience, national pride, and generational memory. That's an extraordinarily powerful context for a brand to sit inside. Third, and this is the channel that has grown most dramatically in this cycle, I am talking about ticketing and hospitality. For the 2019 to 2022 cycle, this generated just over $1 billion. For 2023 to 2026, FIFA has budgeted this $3.09 billion, nearly triple the previous cycle. That near tripling deserves a moment of attention. It's the single most dramatic revenue increase in FIFA's 2026 commercial model, and it's being driven by several factors simultaneously. North America's corporate hospitality infrastructure is significantly more developed than Qatar's was. US cities such as New York, Los Angeles, Dallas, and Miami have premium stadium environments that command premium pricing. FIFA also introduced dynamic pricing for 2026 for the first time. This is the same model airlines and concert venues use. Price moves with demand, and for high demand matches, they have moved significantly. A World Cup final ticket was listed on FIFA's official resale site at nearly $33,000 this cycle. When access to a moment becomes that scarce and that desired, the pricing power becomes extraordinary. The last revenue channel for FIFA is licensing and other revenue. This includes licensing of the FIFA brand and tournament logos, video game deals, merchandise, revenue from smaller tournaments and events, and the FIFA Quality Program. The official budget for the other revenue and income sits at $277 million. That's smaller than the first three channels we discussed earlier, but strategically important as a diversification layer and a signal of brand extension beyond the core tournament. Here is the number that puts everything in perspective. Approximately the majority of FIFA's revenue is generated through the sale of television, marketing, hospitality, and licensing rights for the FIFA World Cups. 90% from tournaments FIFA owns but does not operate. Between 2019 to 2022, total revenue reached at $7.5 billion. World Cup Qatar 2022 alone pushed this revenue to $5.77 billion, the highest single year in the cycle, despite the tournament taking place in a market with significantly less commercial infrastructure than North America. For the current 2023 to 2026 cycle, FIFA is projecting $13 billion in total revenue, with around $9 billion expected from 2026 World Cup in the US, Mexico, and Canada alone. To put that $13 billion in context, the original 2023 to 2026 budget was $11 billion. FIFA revised it upwards to $13 billion in 2024. A significant portion of the additional $2 billion budget coming from the new Club World Cup, which was not in the original budget. The World Cup is not just FIFA's main event, it is the engine that makes the entire organization financially viable. Remove it and the rest of the model collapses. That's both FIFA's greatest strength and its most significant structural vulnerability, and we'll come back to that. This is where the model becomes genuinely remarkable and where the marketing lens is most useful. Compare FIFA to other major sports organizations. The NFL owns and manages a league. It negotiates complex revenue sharing with 32 franchises. It manages enormous player salary structures, stadium leases, operational infrastructure, day-to-day administration across a full season. The Premier League operates similarly. 20 clubs, full seasons, significantly ongoing operational complexity. The NBA runs year-round, player salaries, operational costs, and international expansion costs, continuous content and media obligation. FIFA operates at peak commercial intensity for roughly 6 weeks every 4 years. Its operating costs relative to revenue are dramatically lower than traditional sports leagues. Rights sales generate extremely high margins because the cost of delivering the actual football is borne by others. Here's the data points that makes this concrete. By the end of 2024, 62% of the 2023 to 2026 revenue budget was already contractually secured. By 2025, that figure had grown to 93%. 93% of $13 billion secured before the tournament kicks off. I don't see it as a sports business. That's one of the most predictable, low-risk and high-margin commercial operation in any industry. Most businesses operate with significant revenue uncertainty, but FIFA pre-sells the vast majority of its revenue years in advance. The World Cup happens, the money arrives, and the cycle resets. That model, executed at global scale, produces ROI that almost no other sports organization can match. Now let's talk about the part that makes some people uncomfortable, because intellectual honesty requires it. FIFA is based in Switzerland and operates under Swiss law as a non-profit. This means it pays little to no tax on much of its income and can reinvest its surplus without the obligations shareholders would impose on a commercial entity. By the end of 2019 to 2022 cycle, FIFA reported a net result of just over $1 billion, leaving it with substantial reserves for future tournaments and development programs. Here's where I want to be direct. The non-profit designation gives FIFA significant financial advantages. I'm talking about tax efficiency, legal protections, and a reputational framing as a governing body rather than a commercial enterprise. That framing has real value. It allows FIFA to operate in host countries with incentives and arrangements that a commercial entity would not receive. And yet FIFA has faced serious documented governance failures. The 2015 corruption scandal resulted in multiple criminal indictments and guilty pleas among senior officials. The Qatar 2022 hosting decision raised legitimate questions about the integrity of its bidding process. These are significant institutional failures that the model's financial success does not erase. I credit the business model, but I do not credit the governance failures that have accompanied it. The lessons for marketers here is that a powerful commercial model and poor institutional governance can coexist. But the reputational cost of the latter eventually catches up, even with the most financially successful organization. Brand legitimacy is not a marketing claim, it's an operational commitment. FIFA states that it plans to reinvest at least $11.67 billion during the 2023 to 2026 cycle. That is a 20% increase from the previous cycle. The largest expenditure in staging competitions, $7.6 billion, budgeted for tournaments and events across the cycle. Development spending represents another major line, approximately $3.9 billion allocated to development and education programs, including $2.7 billion earmarked for FIFA's 211 member associations and 6 continental confederations. Under FIFA's structure, each national association receives a guaranteed $5 million every 4 years and can apply for an additional $3 million for specific projects. Each continental confederation receives $60 million during the cycle. The reinvestment narrative is central to FIFA's brand positioning and its legitimacy as a governing body rather than just a commercial operation. Don't make the mistake of dismissing this as a pure marketing spin. For many smaller national associations, FIFA's financial distributions are the primary funding source for football infrastructure, and that is real. But here's the honest observation. The headline reinvestment figure requires scrutiny alongside acceptance. The largest line item, I'm talking about $7.6 billion for staging competition, includes FIFA's own operational costs for running those tournaments. Understanding what reinvestment actually means in granular terms matters when evaluating the claim. Here is the marketing lesson. How you frame the use of revenue is as strategically important as how you generate it. FIFA understands this. Its reinvestment narrative is load-bearing for its institutional legitimacy. FIFA knows its current model has a structural risk, near total dependence on a single tournament every 4 years. So it is deliberately building new revenue engines. The expanded FIFA Club World Cup, launched in its new 32-team format in 2025, is the most significant of these. It added around $2 billion to the current cycle projection, which is why FIFA revised its budget upward from $11 billion to $13 billion. The Women's World Cup is growing commercially. More tournaments, more partnerships, and more digital and content platforms. Here's the tension in that strategy, and I think it's worth naming directly. The World Cup's commercial value is inseparable from its scarcity. The reason broadcasters, sponsors, and fans pay premium prices is precisely because it happens once every 4 years and carries the weight of accumulated anticipation. Add more tournaments, grow the calendar, and you risk diluting the very thing that makes the core asset so valuable. It's a tension FIFA has not fully resolved, and it's one any brand leader scaling a premium franchise will recognize immediately. More access can mean more revenue in the short term, but it can also mean less magic, and less magic eventually means less revenue. The analysts asking whether the expanded 48-team format dilutes the tournament's prestige are asking exactly the right question. FIFA's answer implicitly is that bigger reach outweighs reduced exclusivity. That bet is still playing out. Let me give you the marketing lessons from FIFA because they extend well beyond the sport. FIFA's entire model rests on owning the one thing that makes everything else possible: the right to call it the World Cup. It outsources everything else. Identify what the irreplaceable asset in your category is and orient your strategy around owning it or controlling that. Don't try to run everything yourself. The World Cup is the anchor that makes every other FIFA property commercially viable. Everything, the sponsorship relationships, the broadcast deals, the hospitality packages, is priced against the World Cup's cultural gravity. Ask yourself, what is the flagship moment your brand owns or could own? And are you building everything else around it? Broadcasters, sponsors, and fans don't see value in the footage alone. They see value in the opportunity to participate in one of those few moments that captures the world's attention at the same time. That is what creates lasting commercial appeal. Media rights, sponsorships, tickets, hospitality, licensing, all structured around the same tournament. One asset, four major revenue engines. That's efficient commercial architecture. A lot of brands under-monetize their core assets by building only one revenue layer on top of them. FIFA's ability to frame itself as a governing body rather than a commercial enterprise gives it real advantage. But that frame requires genuine delivery on the mission it claims. When governance fails, as it has significantly, the reputational damage threatens the entire model. You cannot market your way to legitimacy, you have to operate your way there. This is the lesson FIFA is still learning. Every expansion decision, more teams, more tournaments, more calendar events, creates a unit of scarcity for a unit of revenue. That trade has limits. Know where yours are before you cross them. FIFA is not primarily a football organization. It's a rights holder, a media company, and a global brand platform built around one of the most powerful recurring cultural moments in human experience. With a 4-year cycle, near zero player costs, no stadium expenses, pre-sold revenue at extraordinary scale, and a tax-advantaged structure, it has created one of the highest ROI models in the entire sports industry. But here is what I want you to take from this beyond the numbers. This model works because FIFA understood something fundamental about commercial value. People do not pay for products. They pay for access to moments, identities, and communities that matter to them. The World Cup is all three at the same time, and FIFA owns the right to convene it. The most valuable brands create more than products. They create moments people want to experience, identities they want to embrace, and communities they want to belong to. That's what keeps people coming back, no matter how many times the game is played. That's the standard worth building towards. Whether you are running a global governing body or a brand trying to find its place in a crowded market.